But I say to my soul, take courage, Lord will make a way somehow. I know the Lord will make a way somehow. When beneath the cross I'm bound, He will take away each sorrow. Let Him have your burdens now. When the load bears down so heavy, weight is showing upon my brow. There's a sweet relief in knowing the Lord will make a way somehow. Amen. What the second verse? I know the second verse, eh? How am I doing? After there was misunderstanding. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. After all the good you done. Yeah. Come on, man. Oh, you know after that. Come on, understanding. Come on, how to walk good and good. I forgot what my friend. What was the loved ones? The loved ones found that they're complaining too. What's next? When you mind before you pass me by. Pass me by. And I say to my soul. And I say to my soul, take courage. The Lord will make a way somehow. All right, come on, y'all. I know the Lord will make a way somehow. When beneath the cross I bow, He will take away each sorrow. Let Him have your burdens now. Have your burdens now. When the load bears down so heavy, the load bears down so heavy, the weight is shown upon my brow, on my brow. There's a sweet relief in knowing, sweet relief in knowing the Lord will make a way somehow. I am have such a good time with everybody. That's why you ought to come home every Sunday. I got a good time, everybody get here. You ought to be here. You know you're gonna have a good time. Amen. I don't know what y'all. Well, anyway. Oh my God! Don't even worry about it. I'm going to wait to introduce Dr. Washington to you during the announcement period. Too late. But this is not the way I would normally speak to you. And I don't usually read from a manuscript when I preach to you. You know that I've preached here for the last 6 months. So that you know if I whipped out a manuscript, it's because there's something serious that I want to say. Amen, amen, amen. And I have been thoughtful about the wording of it. And I want you to walk with me through this. Amen. It will not have all of the draw-in that I usually have in terms of the way I maneuver things when we preach. But I want you to listen, and I want you to be engaged in this. Somebody find me the biblical text. I need a Bible. There's one of the shelves right out there. No.
Text.
Thank you.
That little print.
So, Jeremiah 38, beginning at verse 6. So they took Jeremiah and threw him into the cistern of Malchiah, the king's son, which was in the court of the guard, letting Jeremiah down by ropes. Now there was no water in the cistern, but only mud, and Jeremiah sank into the mud. I want to talk about the church stuck in the mud. Somebody say amen.
Amen.
Church stuck in the mud. If we take the time and call to our remembrance the actions, the behaviors, the conduct, the performance, the magnitude, the height, the depth, the breadth, and agency of what people are willing to do in order to achieve power, then we are not surprised. We are fully armed and prepared to witness the length to which people will go in order to preserve the power that they perceive they have attained. In other words, if one is overtly willing to lie, steal, kill, and destroy to get it, then one certainly will be willing to lie, steal, kill, and destroy to maintain it. Help me in here. We, citizens of the United States of America, along with the nation of Judah in the text that I just read, find ourselves in a high state of apprehension, nervousness, and unease as we witness the 1% wrestle with the threat of the loss of power. This crisis is further intensified both for us and for Judah in the text, because the impending change is not just an incremental change, but rather it is the imminent change that we're witnessing is reflective of and can be perceived as the cusp of a change of world order. The way things used to be just aren't the way they are anymore. Somebody help me in there. Needless to say, disinformation is everywhere.
Lord have mercy.
Channels of communication are distorted. The truth can no longer be readily identified. And socio-political immorality is rampant. We are told to believe the party line. Not your lying eyes and your lying ears. For Judah in the text, the change of world order could clearly be documented from their history of the past 35 years, preceding this reading that we just did in the text. It has only been 35 years since the northern kingdom has fallen. And they were conquered by the Assyrians, scattering the 9 to 10 tribes of Israel. And if that were not devastating enough, with the fall of the Assyrians came the rise of the Babylonians. And 10 years ago now, from the biblical text, Babylon, with its king Nebuchadnezzar, strolled dominantly into Jerusalem and plundered all of its gold. He took the golden vessels out of the temple and all of the instruments of worship that were gold. He stripped the gold from the pillars of the door of the temple and seized that also. And now, he and his forces were back again, using the same strategy which consumed Israel, a blockage of the city. In other words, at the reading of this text, the whole city of Jerusalem has been surrounded by the Babylonian army. And they have shut off all access within to the city and all access out of the city. And they're shutting down all transit relative to the city of Jerusalem, which means that whatever you have is all you have. You can't get any more. And you cannot get in or out of the city. One of the major headaches for the ruling 1% of the text is that of the prophet Jeremiah. You remember Jeremiah. He's the prophet God told that before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you and appointed you a prophet to the nation. Well, he was going around preaching surrender and assimilation, telling the young people of Judah to surrender, to leave Jerusalem and to go into the enemy territory of Babylon and marry and buy houses and prosper, and to pray for the welfare of the city. For he said, in its welfare you will find your welfare. And if that was not sufficiently threatening enough to the privilege of the 1%, Jeremiah preached to the soldiers who remained in the city to put down their weapons and surrender to the power of Babylon. As you can imagine, the 1% nearly lost their mind. Running to the king, they gained permission to put Jeremiah in a muddy cistern without food or water, left there to die. So because of the fear of the 1%, we have Jeremiah, the manifested word of God, prophet to the nations, sanctified spokesperson to the divine presence, appointed prophet of Yahweh, voice of God to the temple and to the church of his day, stuck in the mud. But before you get too concerned about Jeremiah and the church in the text being stuck in the mud, open up your newspaper and open up your ears and look at your television, because the church of our present context is also stuck in the mud. Evangelicals are stuck trying to pray away the gay. Communion for queer people is forbidden among the Catholics, stuck. Queer folk are leaving the Presbyterians and even the Episcopal churches, stuck. Queer churches are in trouble because to their chagrin, they are forced to admit that even though they've been discriminated, they discriminate within their own ranks. Racism is present in the queer church. And the United Methodists, the second largest Christian denomination in the nation, 13 million members, 7 million in the United States, have announced their intention to split, proudly declaring that the practice of homosexuality is incompatible with the Christian teaching. But the devil is a liar. Oh, bless his name. Given all that we see, both in the ancient text and in this current day of our lived experience, somebody say, where is the hope? Where is the hope? Well, here it is. Not only are you able to see, but God is also able to see. And the text, the text says that Hagar was the first person to name God. And because she too had been put out, I know nobody in here has ever been put out, but she too had been put out and was in the desert in the same position as Jeremiah, about to die without any resources. But the angel of the Lord came to her and spoke to her. And after she had been ministered to by the angel of the Lord, she decided that she would name God. Do you know the longer you live, you will name God? Somebody help me in here. I feel the Holy Ghost. The longer you live, you will come to a place where you will name God for yourself. Amen. That's why Isaiah said, his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And I don't know what you call him. I call him Jesus. But known by many names, God, we serve a God that reveals God's self to us as we live and breathe. Amen. The prophet is in the mud. The prophet is in the mud. But God sees the situation, and here is the hope. I see, Miss God, sitting on her throne, contemplating to herself, my prophet is in the mud.
Yes.
My church is in the mud.
Yes.
My word is in the mud.
In the mud.
I see Miss God saying, what shall I do? How shall I solve this? What is needed for this moment? And like James Weldon Johnson says, God thought, and God thought, and God thought.
All right now.
And then God decided what's needed for this moment is an intelligent black sissy.
Lord have
And here's why the denominations are wrong concerning queer people. Because Miss God decided that she needed an intelligent black sissy to solve this problem, and she began to collude with Ebed Melech. Now check this out. Ebed Melech, because he was a eunuch, he could not go into the temple. But that did not stop God. Somebody help me. Just because folk won't let you in the temple don't mean nothing, because they cannot stop God's communication to you. If God wants to reach you, come on in here. If God wants to reach you, God will reach you and preach and talk to you by itself.
Yes.
She, God, colludes with Ebed Melech, and they develop a scheme to rescue Jeremiah from certain death. This is where the dominant theologies are wrong. It is God who chooses who God will use. And there are no barriers between God and God's people. We will further explore this text over the next 3 Sundays. But what I want you to know is that there is a place for you in the kingdom. Amen? There's a place for you in the kingdom. Amen? And it cannot be denied.
Amen.
And God will collude with you. Amen? Plan with you and scheme with you that the right, amen. You know, there is an order. People are saying there's a certain order, but God has an order too. And it seems to me I remember that order saying something about the last being first. Somebody help me in here, huh? And that God is the God of the divine reversal. And so even though we have seen evil for itself fully manifested in our face in this week, yet I believe God. Anybody believe God? I believe God. And there will be a divine reversal of what we have seen. There will be a divine reversal of what we have. There will be a divine reversal of what we have seen. Because we serve a God that is mighty and able. Do you receive this message today?
Receive.
Put your hands together.